Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day, all. I want to introduce myself. My name is Hema Anggrahini. I'm from Indonesia, from Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang. From this opportunity, I want to share my research. I'm sorry, I will share my PowerPoint. My research in 2022 with the title Breastfeeding Duration as a Predictor Related to the Incidence of Eating Difficulties in Children aged 24 until 36 months. Okay, as we know, eating difficulties is happen in children from 1 years until 2 until 3 years is the more happen in the children up to 1 years. And the cause of the eating difficulties in children is multi-factor, like for medical condition, maybe from anatomical of the oromotor, or maybe the other condition that make the children eating difficult. And then the other factor besides the medical condition is inorganic factors, which include the eating habit or basic feeding rules, and then breastfeeding behavior, and then parental factors. And if the eating difficulties happen more and more, will be cause of serious problem like malnutrition. The aim of this research to determine the relationship between breastfeeding behavior, maternal emotional factors, the application of basic feeding rules, and the culture in applying basic feeding rules to children's eating difficulties. And the methodology was an analytical observational method with a cross-sectional design, and the study was conducted in the Kedungunu district, Semarang City in Indonesia, October 2022. And the research subjects were taken by consecutive sampling as many as 55 subjects. Eating difficulty, implementation of basic feeding rules, cultural in implementing basic feeding rules, and maternal emotional factors were assessed using a questionnaire that had been through previous validity and reliability tests, and the test analysis with Mann-Whitney and chi-square. This is for the results that majority of the children were girl with 52.7%, and the parents' income were higher from the standard minimum regional fee, and the education for the parent were for the mother were university, and the children have eating difficulty or not. Majority of the children don't have eating difficulty as 87.3%. And the classification of eating difficulties for the children were majority in inappropriate feeding practice. For the history of 2 years breastfeeding, majority have 2 years breastfeeding, and then the history of exclusive breastfeeding, majority got exclusive breastfeeding, and the method, majority of the children had direct breastfeeding, and the mother emotional factors, the majority of the mother not well in the emotional factor, and the basic feeding rules, majority of the children apply, or the parents, I mean, apply the basic feeding rules. as 78.2%. And the culture about applying the breastfeeding rules, majority of the parents support the culture of breastfeeding rules as 92.7%. And this is the bivariate analysis among the variables, the free variables, and the eating difficulties. And this is the significant relationship between the duration of breastfeeding with eating difficulties. So the child, so we have the uh, result and discussion about this research are the child prefers to breastfeed rather than eat. In children who are directly breastfed, a strong bond has been formed between mother and child, so that children tend to prefer breastfeeding rather than eating, and the children will tend to feel full and comfortable just by breastfeeding. This statement is also supported by the results that the majority of children who have difficulty eating are children who breastfeed directly with their mothers. This is also associated with unfavorable maternal emotional factor, tending to be more children who have difficulty eating. Emotional factors were concluded not well in this study because mothers tend to follow their child's wish more if the child has difficulty eating. For example, they cannot stand it when their children don't eat, so they follow the foods their children like more than the recommended standard menu. They also tend to persuade their children to want to eat even by watching TV or playing and walking around the house. And the conclusion, the need to provide routine mealtime rules for children so that children will choose to eat rather than breastfeed or drink formula milk. Okay, this is my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention and thank you.